5 days after the tornado hit, President Biden paid a visit to Dawson Springs to see the damage firsthand. He delivered a national address right in the middle of one of the neighborhoods that was destroyed. I was the only tri-state television news reporter that the White House allowed access to the president that day. I was right there with the president as Governor Beshear took him on a tour of what was once a large neighborhood. Yesterday, I talked one-on-one with Governor Beshear about that day and about the tornado that hit his hometown hard. Governor Beshear, thanks so much for being with us. We are now 1 year after that deadly tornado hit Dawson Springs and Bremen. Tell me, where do things stand right now?
Well, it's amazing how much progress you can make in a year, but I will never be satisfied with our recovery and rebuilding until it's done. But there is a lot of progress out there. We've helped fund over 40 new homes, meaning at least 40 families are under a roof for this Christmas when they couldn't be last year. We've seen over $500 million of insurance claims paid out to these families, tens of millions of dollars of federal aid as well as state aid. But maybe the most important thing that's happened is we've seen new jobs come to these regions. In Grace County, we've announced about 480 new jobs. In Muhlenberg County, 200 plus new jobs. And then the largest investment in the history of Western Kentucky, $1 billion, 400 new jobs, 26 miles from Dawson Springs. This rebuilding has to be about more than just restoring structures. It's got to be about giving people a reason to stay. And every time we announce new jobs and new investments in the areas that were hit by the tornadoes, it means that those towns are going to persist.
Now, I was there with you and President Biden when you took the president on the tour of Dawson Springs to see the damage there. How important was that visit with the president, and how did the federal response personally help the tornado victims?
Well, it was important. It showed the people of Dawson and the people of Mayfield where we were before, but mainly the people of Kentucky, that the federal government and certainly the state government were going to be there to help. What we saw was the fastest disaster declaration ever issued at that point, and we've seen significant dollars flow in from FEMA. I'm grateful for the federal aid we've received, but of course we need to see FEMA do better, both in the West and in the East. A lot of it has to do with what Congress has shackled them with, but still far too many people get turned down that have lost too much. And then the limits that they can get are too low, and oftentimes people are awarded even less than that. So while I am grateful for all the help from the federal government, they've got to do better. These are the lives of our people, and as governor, I don't care who the president is. I'm going to push for every bit of help that we can get.
You have been back to Dawson Springs a few times since the tornado. Talk about the road to recovery there and what still needs to be done there.
As you know, this tornado event was very personal to me. Dawson Springs is where my family is from. It's where my granddad would put me on his tractor and drive me through town. I knew maybe not every block of that town, but a lot of them. 70% of every structure wiped out, fully wiped out. That town lost so many people, especially given its size. It was hard on me. It was much harder on them. But what we see now are new homes coming up. We haven't seen too many new homes in Dawson in a while, and they are getting rebuilt one by one. We've seen services restored. We see work to repair damaged infrastructure. We see a community coming back. It's pretty exciting. I'd share one story, and that's my friends, the McKnights. Now, the McKnights had a really tough couple of months. They lost their son, Logan, at Thanksgiving, and then they lost their home during the tornadoes. I got to meet them and their daughter, Kara, especially at the toy drive, where we loaded her up with so many toys she started laughing. And just a special moment where you know that we're going to make it, because you can still find joy in such despair. They are now in their new home. Kara got to tell me about how she decided to color her new bedroom. So you see really triumphant stories of folks that have been through too much.
Absolutely. You talked about the response. What are some things that could be done better if this were to happen again?
Well, the first thing is we need a FEMA response that puts people first. We were able to make a lot of improvements through FEMA, certainly in the flooding disaster. The first is you have to have decision makers on the ground. So people who are pursuing individual assistance can look you in the eye, and you can ensure that you're able to process their claim. We need to make sure that we rebuild more resiliently, especially our telecommunications infrastructure. I'll tell you, the scariest time for all of us is when all the cell phone towers are down and you can't get in touch with your loved one to know if they're alive. I went through that in this instance. I did not know for 12 plus hours whether my cousins in Dawson Springs were alive or dead. I didn't know until I was there the next day. And as I was about to leave, one of my cousins walked up to me, and it's, to this day, one of the most emotional moments I've ever lived through. And telecommunications being so critically important in coordinating the response. But I tell you what you see are everybody turning out to help. If you ever lose your faith in humanity, just watch what people do right after a natural disaster. People driving up into people's driveways they've never met and saying, how can I help? Law enforcement coming from all over the Commonwealth to help out during that period of time. Now, we have amazing people in this Commonwealth, and I think that's how and why we make it through these things.
Yeah, absolutely. I got to witness some of that for myself. I want to ask you, too, on this one-year anniversary, how do you see Dawson Springs and Bremen on the 2-year anniversary?
Oh, fully rebuilt. We've made a lot of progress this year. We're going to see a whole lot more this next year. And with all of the new jobs at the 200 that are going to be at the poultry processing facility in Muhlenberg County, and then just outside of Dawson and down in Hopkinsville, we're going to recycle the lithium in our phones and in our tablets, and we're going to use that to put them into electric batteries for vehicles. That means we won't have to rely on China for 1 ounce of lithium. But with those opportunities for folks in those towns, I see those towns not only surviving, I see them thriving. And let me tell you, the folks in these areas that were hit hard, they deserve the best. They deserve more opportunities going forward. They have lived through hell, and they deserve as close as we can get them to heaven here on earth.
Absolutely. Governor Beshear, thanks for taking the time to talk with us tonight.
Thank you.